Hello, everybody. Happy Monday afternoon. Hope yours is going well. And we have a new video today, but before we get into the content of the video, I want to say thank you to everybody for getting us to another minor subscriber milestone. We are now at 1,180 subscribers on the channel. Thank you to all the new people who've showed up in the last couple of days since I last did a check-in. Let's try to get to 1,200 by the end of the month. Let's try to get to 1,500 by the end of the football season. Seems reasonable to me. The channel is growing right now, and I want to say again, thank you to everybody who subscribes to me. If people were not watching my videos, I would not be making them. I don't only make videos for subscribers. If I only cared about subscribers, I would do things very differently. But thank you to the people who come out and watch my stuff. So, we have a new video today. It's Monday afternoon, the day after the craziness that was last night, one of the best regular season games in recent memory, and quite simply, today is unfortunately going to be a bit of a tragic day for us because picking up the pieces of last night includes going over two rough injuries that the Seahawks sustained last night, and we got word today it is official. Marquise Blair, starting nickel cornerback, and Bruce Irvin, starting linebacker slash defensive end, will each need knee surgery. Pete Carroll confirms. Their seasons are over. I got like 6 or 7 different beat writers tweet the same thing at the same time about this, so the worst news possible came down the wire today. So, first of all, we will spend time talking about how we come back from this. You know, Blair, it's pretty obvious. It's Ugo Amadi's season, and I think he can do it. I think he played good last night. I think that, we drafted him for a reason. We drafted him because we liked him, and now he gets a chance to prove why we liked him. So, it's Ugo Amadi's season. And Bruce Irvin, I mean, Alton Robinson's going to help. Maybe Shaquem gets the call up. Jordan Brooks, here's your chance to prove some people, myself included, wrong. But I'm not really going to talk about that right now. I could talk about what happened yesterday in the NFL, about how nobody's going to feel bad for the Seahawks, and nobody should. There were teams yesterday that had their seasons basically end. I'm looking at the 49ers and the Broncos. There were teams yesterday that had their seasons halfway end. I mean, the Cowboys left over from week 1, really, with all the injuries they had in the first game. Their season's halfway sunk. You've got teams like the Giants that have lost huge pieces of their offense. The Colts lost a huge piece of their defense. The Vikings lost a huge piece of their defense. The injuries were absolutely insane yesterday. And honestly, because we didn't lose a single guy who had ever made a Pro Bowl or an All-Pro team, we might be one of the luckier teams. So nobody's going to feel bad for us, not with what some of the other teams had to deal with yesterday. Plain and simple. So I'm not going to really talk about that. Instead, I'm going to talk about this team as a whole, and I want to address some of the things that I said and were said to me about yesterday. I was very, very frustrated with this defense last night, mostly because they came 1 yard away of blowing Wilson's, maybe his best game ever. I don't know. It really could have been 5 touchdowns on Bill Belichick's defense. That's something. That means something. And I think in all that, I got away a little bit from what I knew in the weeks leading up to the season and what I knew in general going into 2020. This defense, this Seahawks defense, is a work in progress. It was a work in progress, and it is a work in progress. And I think I kind of let myself forget that a little bit because I was so annoyed with how close that game came to getting blown despite Wilson playing out of his mind, which is something that I saw last year way too much, and I don't want to see it again. But look, we had no preseason, very limited offseason, very limited time to practice, very little time to get together. We were implementing several new pieces. Bruce Irvin, Benson Mayowa, to a certain extent, I guess you could say Jordan Brooks. He's playing 8 to 10 snaps a game, it looks like. Quentin Dunbar, Jamal Adams. Like, we were doing some things to this defense this offseason. We moved things around, losing Quentin Jefferson, losing Clowney, losing Kendricks, even though I don't like him. I mean, We had turnover this offseason. Marquise Blair, his role changed from being a safety to being a nickel cornerback. So I knew that this defense was not going to play that well this year. And if you keep, and combined with the limited offseason, it's not surprising that the defense is struggling. If you look around the league right now, you will see quite a few defenses that are struggling. Not every defense, but a lot of defenses are struggling. Some of that has to do with the nature of this offseason. There was one stat that got posted on Twitter earlier today that kind of gave me some clarity. Cam Newton had not thrown for that many yards since the first 2 games of his career. The first 2 games of his career came immediately after the lockout offseason. So it seems to me that Cam Newton likes to play against defenses that are coming off a lockout or a shortened offseason anyway. So that seems to probably have some correlation. So let me be clear. It is understandable that the defense will struggle at first. It's understandable that the defense will not be good for a little while. I get that. That's fine. Well, it's not fine, but I get it. Okay, Pete Carroll, Ken Norton, and John Schneider, to a certain extent, have 14 more games to figure this out. They have 14 more games to make this defense play at least at a above average level so we can actually get to where we want to go. But I will say I didn't expect the defense to be this bad, but regardless, the point of this video that I'm going to be making is this. The defense that looks like one of the worst defenses in the league through 2 games just got worse. They lost 2 starters, basically. Blair basically starts. He plays more than half the snaps. And Bruce Irvin was playing 85% of the snaps, basically, before he went down. So whatever little we were getting from those guys, they were some of the best players we had. So here's the thing. Here's what I'm going to get into. If the defense is bad, which it is, and I'm sure if you caught Pete Carroll or Ken Norton Jr. in a moment of honesty, they would admit the defense is very bad right now. That being the case, you need to do whatever you can do to keep your offense on the field. Go for it on 4th and short. Don't give up on the drive on 1st and 20. Don't give up on the drive on 2nd and 20. Don't give up on 3rd and 15. That's what we cannot be dealing with, because every time you give up on a drive with give up plays like that, all you're doing is saying, all right, defense, get ready to go back out there again. We scored no points that time, and we know you guys are bad. We know you guys are going to give up a ton of yards. You guys are going to give up some points. We're just going to give up one of the 10 or 11 drives we're going to have this game. And we can't afford to do that right now because the defense is bad. The 2013 team could give up on drives. It was okay. We had a second-year QB, and we had the best defense maybe in NFL history. One of the greatest defenses of all time. We could give up on drives. We could play ball control. We could punt the ball. We could play field position. That defense was special. This defense right now is the opposite. Well, they're special in a completely different sense. So if the defense is bad, I need the coaches to come to grips with reality on that. And I want to highlight something because we did start the season 2-0. We have 2 wins, no losses. And I want to explore part of the reason why that is the case. So let's take a look here at the total defensive stats for the entire NFL after 2 games. So we're going to be taking a look first at yards per game allowed. This is how many yards per game every team in the NFL has allowed. 2 teams have not played yet. So the Colts are number 1. They've only given up 208 yards per game. That's pretty incredible, actually. We have a couple teams here at 305. So the Colts are way in the lead. You can go down the list. 49ers, pretty good. Cardinals, pretty good. Eagles, decent. Okay, where's the Seahawks? Okay, where are the Seahawks on this list? Okay, 400 yards a game. Now we're getting pretty low here, and I still haven't seen the Seahawks. Oh, okay. 485 yards per game, the most in the league. The only team that's close is the Atlanta Falcons, and we know how the Falcons defense is playing right now. So in terms of stopping the other team from moving the ball on a play-to-play basis, we're the worst team in the league. Either us or the Falcons. It's one of the two. It has to be one of the two. However, And this is a little bit of a statistical aberration. If you go to points per game and you go down, we are not so bad. We are 21st, and 7 of these 55 points were off the pick six. So really, it's 48. And that 48 would put us basically right in the middle of the league. So somehow, the defense that is allowing the most yards in the league is allowing about the 15th or 16th most points in the league. 24 points a game. That's really not that bad. And I mean it when I say that. I'm serious. If we, as a defense, allow 24 points a game, we will win most of our games because this offense is that good. But what is causing this to happen? And what does it tell us about what might happen in the future or what we need to do to prepare for what is coming? That's kind of what it got me thinking, because we are basically allowing 20 yards for every 1 point that other teams are scoring on us. Almost 1,000 yards and just shy of 50 points. I'm willing to bet our ratio of 20 yards per point allowed is the best in the league, and that might be a number that doesn't happen that often in the modern NFL. And as for how this happened, let's take a look at the drive chart for our game so far this year. Played the Falcons. Let's take a look at some of these drives that the Falcons had that ended in no points. Okay, early in the game, they get a good drive going. They move the ball 35 yards, and then they turn it over on downs. Thank you, Benson Mayowa. 35 yards and no points. Fast forward to the second half. We have the big one right here. The Falcons move the ball 55 yards on this drive, get it all the way down to the 11, and pick up no points. Thank you again to Benson Mayowa for coming up with the clutch play. So that is a lot of offensive production, only to get a big goose egg on the scoreboard out of it. And near the end of the game, we see it again. 6-play drive, 35 yards. Most people would consider a 35-yard drive to be at least moderately successful, and you would usually expect that drive to end in a field goal. Nothing. They turned the ball over on downs. Thank you, Matt Ryan, for missing that throw. And that is a lot of offensive production to get 0 points out of. And you could even say the same about a couple of these field goal drives. They opened the game with a very successful 44-yard drive, ends in only 3 points. They also had a 60-yard drive at the end of the half that only ended in 3 points. You would call this a successful drive because it was inside the 2-minute warning, and a touchdown was never really an option, but 60 yards and only 3 points. So you can see where these long drives that give you nothing are just adding up. And last night, we saw it again. Let's take a look at some of these drives by the Patriots. 8 plays, 45 yards. A 45-yard drive is good in the NFL. You would usually expect to be coming away with at least some points after driving 45 yards. Missed the field goal. Not only do they get no points, they set us up in great field position after the miss. And then, of course, you had the interception after a 31-yard drive. A 31-yard drive is, by most metrics, at least mildly successful. That's a decent chunk of yards to not be getting any points out of. And the big one, last drive of the game, 79 yards. 79 yards. They run out of time, and they do not score any points. And, on top of it as well, you have a drive here. Almost 70 yards. 68 yards. 3 points. So, the way I see it, this defense is doing a very good job of making crucial plays in big moments to help us win the game. And that's awesome, don't get me wrong. I mean, thank God they're doing it, or else we really might be in a much deeper hole than we are. But my question is, even though it's awesome, is it sustainable? And my feeling is probably not. My feeling is eventually we're going to be playing offenses that aren't as good, but we also are going to be playing offenses that don't mess up these crucial situations as much. The Falcons went 0 for 4 basically on 4th down. That's what turned that game. That's why we didn't give up 40. We only gave up 25. Patriots, I mean, they threw a bad interception. Cam Newton made a very bad throw, very bad play. And at the end of the game, he just committed too early to running to the inside. It seemed like he could have bounced it to the outside and probably scored. At least he would have had a much better chance than he actually did with the play that he ran. I don't feel like this sort of thing is sustainable. It feels like a high wire act. Eventually, these long drives are going to turn into points on a routine basis. We are making other teams work for every little thing they're getting against us. And when it comes down to fourth down, when it comes down to game-winning plays, we've been succeeding through 2 weeks. Benson Mayo has made a couple big plays. Jamal Adams made a couple big plays. Oh, by the way, both teams we played this year have gone for a 2-point conversion that they didn't get thanks to Jamal Adams. So there's another big play situation where somebody comes up with a monster defensive play to prevent points from going on the board after giving up a long, successful touchdown drive. Because every touchdown drive we've given up this year has been a long drive. Nothing is cheap. Everything is hard-earned by the opposing offense. But my concern is that the next team that has a 500-yard game on us might not be making these errors. They might not put up 24 points. They might put up 35. They might put up 40. Because my gut tells me this stuff where we give up all these yards and then we make a play right at the end to save it, not sustainable. Much more indicative of this defense's ability is how they play the whole rest of that drive when they're getting gashed, when they can't cover, when they can't get a pass rush, whatever, whoever you want to put it on. That's more indicative than Benson Mayo and knocking down a pass at the line, or Benson Mayo running in free for the sack, or L.J. Collier and Delano Hill coming up with the play of their life to keep Cam out of the end zone. That's the stuff that I'm concerned about. So before we get to that point, before we get to the point where this defense is giving up 40 points a game on instead of 24, because we are right on the cusp of doing that, let's go to the offense and trust the offense to do to basically do the same do the opposite almost that we're seeing opposing offenses do against us. Because if you look at total offense so far through 2 games, we're 10th in yards. That's not great. That's good. It's above average. 400 yards a game. Okay. But points per game, we're second. The only team that scored more than us this year is Green Bay. The only team with a better offense through 2 games than us is Green Bay. Maybe Baltimore, but we have them beat in most of the most basic box score metrics at least. So, and Baltimore did have a defensive touchdown already. So, yeah. And my question is this sustainable? And how did this happen? Well, if you take a look at the drive chart so far, so let's do it for us. Okay, 77 yards, touchdown. 60 yards, touchdown. 75 yards, touchdown. 36 yards, touchdown. Field goal on the 57-yarder. This is the only field goal drive we've had all season so far, by the way. 65 yards, touchdown. Look at the drives where we don't score. -3, 22. 22 is one of the longest non-scoring drives we've had this season. 5 yards, no points. 1 yard, no points. -1 yard, end of game. Against the Patriots, look at the touchdown drive. 75 yards, 75 yards, 75 yards, 52 yards. That's actually a short field for this offense so far this year. 65 yards. And look at these drives where we don't score. 15 yards, 3 yards, -2 yards, and 9 yards. When we move the ball, we are cashing in. When we get a good drive going, we are ending it in the end zone. Is that sustainable? I think the answer is yes. We have a QB at the prime of his powers, peak of his powers. Absolutely incredible season, absolutely incredible player. We have great receivers. We have tight ends. They're not producing a ton yet, but we know that they're good. We know that they're talented. We have good running backs. Offensive line is a work in progress, but parts of it are good. We have a coordinator who so far seems to be getting some of the stuff that we need to do. I feel like this is sustainable because Wilson is that good. Wilson avoids turnovers that well. Wilson's on a streak of avoiding turnovers these last 2+ seasons now that is pretty much unheard of around the league. I don't know of any other quarterback that has managed to avoid turnovers like this except maybe Aaron Rodgers over almost 40 meaningful games of football. It's absolutely incredible. Lock it on third down, absolute genius running routes, getting open on those clutch third downs. The big plays now coming in from Metcalf, a couple big plays every game it seems like now. This offense is the side with the ballers. This offense is the side that is producing. So what I'm really getting at here is the worst defense in the league in terms of stopping the other team from play to play just lost 2 key players. So it's not going to get better. Not right now. Maybe it'll be better by the end of the season. Like I said, Pete, Ken, John, you've got 14 games to fix this. But in the meantime, you need to trust this offense. This offense is making the big plays when they need them. 4th and 3 against the Falcons, they air it out, hit the big touchdown to Metcalf. Game felt over at that point. We're picking up. When we get a drive going, we are finishing it. Let's trust Wilson to be able to pick up 3rd and long. Let's trust him to be able to protect the ball on 1st and long, 2nd and long. Let's trust him to convert 4th down. Because we can't be putting this defense out there on the field, because I just showed it to you. As bad as the defense has been over the first 2 games, they've made enough big plays in crucial moments to only give up 24 points. I don't think that's going to hold. Next time we give up 500 offensive yards to a team, they may drop 40 or 50 on us. Because to me, the defense, a lot of this stuff to me is a lot of those big plays to me, they're not going to hold up. You're not going to be able to see them from week to week. Trust the offense, because they've been doing this for a couple years now. They've been this efficient and this effective and this good at keeping drives alive, putting drives together, not settling for field goals. Just trust them. All right, long video, longest video like this that I've made in a while, but that's what I'm coming away with this game from. This defense, they've made big plays in crucial situations. I don't want to keep putting it on them to have to make those big plays, because right now they can't consistently stop anybody. So to me, the only solution is to put more on the offense. Go for it on 4th down and don't give up on drives. That's how we win. All right. Peace out, Go Hawks. See you guys in stream later. Again, sorry for the long video, but this is important, and it's going to be important for probably at least another month. That's probably a minimal expectation for how long it'll take for this defense to actually start playing good. Because I do expect it to start playing good eventually, but it's not a realistic expectation right now. See ya.